I am dismayed by a story which has come out today about the Office of Budget Responsibility that says that there's probably not going to be as much money available as Liz Truss thinks. So Liz Truss has based her entire campaign on the idea that there is a headroom of £30 billion to fund her tax cuts. And that isn't going to be the case. If anything, it's going to be 15 billion at the very most, and it's getting smaller by the day. So what Liz Truss is promising is fantasy. Fantasy. And it's time that people woke up and recognised that this is wrong. Now, we now need to see whether or not she's going to turn around and do a sort of Liz Trussism and say, well, you weren't listening. Your fault. This is a narcissistic piece of nonsense. Liz Truss has modelled herself on a fantasy image of Mrs. Thatcher, an image which was concocted by the media and by the BBC. That image is of an Iron Lady who is completely inflexible, who doesn't allow for any questions. Mrs. Thatcher adored questions. Mrs. Thatcher adored debate, and she changed her mind if she was convinced. She was a tough cookie. But Liz Truss didn't know her. In fact, Liz Truss was busy going on campaigns against Mrs. Thatcher when she was little. When she was little, she was in the Labour Party and in the Liberal Party. She was not a Thatcher fan. So to remodel herself now as the daughter of Thatcher is a nonsense. And to do so without doing the hard work. Mrs. Thatcher always did the hard work. Mrs. Thatcher sat up until the wee hours of the morning working, and she was up early and working, and she ran a tight ship. Liz Truss has been used to a ship which is extremely leaky, as in Boris's regime. Parties all over the place. Well, if she has any respect for one particular party, the Conservative Party, she needs to bow out as soon as possible, and she needs to recognise that her entire campaign has been predicated on something which is false. And then she needs to leave space for people who actually do the work. Rishi Sunak, as far as we know, puts in a full day's work. Rishi Sunak puts in the time. I can't say that Rishi Sunak is the best candidate. I think we've got two appalling candidates to choose from, but one of them takes some sort of responsibility, and that is not Liz Truss. So where do we stand now? We stand on a knife edge. What is Liz Truss going to do? Is she going to turn round and do a sort of Trussism and say, oh, you weren't listening. You didn't hear what I'd said. You didn't hear properly what I said. You're all stupid, which is the way she seems to deal with civil servants, allegedly, which is the way that she deals with other ministers, allegedly, and is certainly the way she deals with the media. You didn't listen. You didn't hear properly. Well, we did hear properly. She promised tax cuts based on a £30 billion fund that doesn't exist. We now have that evidence. And thankfully we have it just before she's supposed to move into number 10. It's now time for the Conservative voters to think again, to revise the votes that they've already cast. 66% of Conservative voters have been wrong. Nobody wants a Prime Minister who cannot deliver. And Liz Truss cannot deliver what she has promised. More than that, we know she's not up to the detail. Any Prime Minister needs to look at the detail. She can't operate purely on summaries. We know she likes summaries. We know she likes précis. We know that she says that this is too long. And that is presumably why she comes a cropper every time she's on television. Every time. And even in front of the big guys like Sergei Lavrov. She can't hold her own because she hasn't done her homework. If she needs a lesson in geography, she ought to go and talk to Andrea Leadsom or Mrs. May. These people know about geography. In fact, I think, wasn't it Mrs. May who studied geography at Oxford? But Liz Truss doesn't, it seems, pay attention. So we need to pay attention for her, and we need to ensure that she is not given the keys to number 10. This is a wake-up moment, and we need to wake up, and we need to, what is it, smell the roses or smell something.